Hello, this is Ahmed Yassin. Away from writing technical articles, and as requested by many of you, I prefer to start uh, providing short videos in which I will discuss some of the common issues that the SQL Server database administrators face and how to mitigate such issues. So, I call this series as SQL Server F1, which is asking for help for the SQL Server administration issues. And I prefer to start with SQL Server transaction loop common issues because of the importance of the SQL Server transaction loop as one of the main components of the SQL Server database. And the importance of the SQL Server transaction loop comes from the role that it plays in the database itself due to the write ahead mechanism in which the logs will be written first to the database log file before writing it to the database data file. And this helps mainly when a hardware or application failure occur in the database, so that the SQL Server transaction log will help in rolling forward any committed transaction and make sure that the data will be preserved, and roll back any uncommitted transaction so that these, let's say, dirty data is not written to the database. In addition to the rule of the transaction log, in restoring the database to any point in time. So here I will try to discuss two main issues. The first thing that I'm sure most of the database administrators face it, which is after starting my SQL Server service, some of my databases are taking long time in recovery state before becoming online. And you have to wait for it to complete the recovery, in which it will roll back any uncommitted transaction and roll forward any um, uncommitted transaction. Roll back the uncommitted and roll forward any committed one. So we have to wait for this process, which is in the recovery process. So how could we troubleshoot such issue? We used to troubleshoot such issue using the dbcc log info command, and this command will show the number of virtual log files that are available in your database. What is this VLF or virtual log file? The virtual log file is the smallest unit of data writing in the transaction log file. You know that the transaction log file is divided into small units and write to these small units. This small unit is called the VLF or virtual log file. And due to the large number of VLFs in your transaction log file, the database recovery will take long time, because if the database is restarted, the database will be in recovery state, so that the SQL Server engine will start reading these VLF files in order to maintain the database in consistent state, in which it will roll forward any committed transaction and roll back any failed one. So if the transaction log contains large number of these VLF files and the SQL Server will read all these files, then it will take long time. Okay, what's the cause of this large number of VLF files? This is due to the misconfiguration of your database, because if the database, let's say, or the log file itself start with small initial size and the auto growth amount is very small, so that each time the log file need to grow, it will grow in small chunks, so that it will create large number of VLF files. So to overcome this issue, we have to start with a good initial size which fits your database. You know that your database will be a heavily transaction database, so it should be started with a good initial size, and also the auto growth should be enough so that the amount of grow will be in large chunks. Let's say if this database is heavily transaction database, it should be with 1 gigabyte auto growth. This is to overcome the issue so that you will not face it in future. But if you face this issue, You need to mitigate that issue using these steps. The first step is taking transaction log backup for your database, so that you will truncate all inactive part of the transaction log, and this is if your database is in full recovery model. After that, you have to perform a checkpoint manually. You need to write the command checkpoint only, and so that all the pages in the buffer cache will be returned to the database data file. After that, you can shrink the database log file, and after shrinking the database log file, you will see that the number of VLFs, if you run again the command dbcc check info, this command again, dbcc log info, you will check the number of VLFs, and you can confirm that the number of VLFs is small, so that you can reconfigure your database again with initial size and auto growth that will overcome this issue in future. I hope this will be useful for this issue. Okay, the second issue is that the transaction log file is consuming my disk drive space. You can see that the log file is growing too much and filling the disk drive. So what will cause such issue? Or first, let's see how to troubleshoot such issue. To troubleshoot this issue, you can run this server level command, which is select name as database name, which is the database name, and logger use wait description from system databases. And this command will help in identifying what is this log file waiting for, so that based on what my database is waiting for, or log file on my database is waiting for, we can mitigate this issue. For example, if I have my database in for recovery model and I'm not taking any log backup, so that the log file will be growing, and I can see that the database is waiting for a log backup. Another thing, if I am configuring my database with database mirroring, and there is any network issue that prevents the principal and the mirror parties to communicate with each other, you will see that the log file will be increasing and growing. And if you run the previous command on sys.databases, you can see that the database is waiting for database mirroring. The same thing with replication. If you are configuring replication or CDC, change data capture, and you can see that your database or let's say the parties are not communicating, or you have any problem with the SQL agent that prevents the SQL agent jobs from running and having the replication working fine, you will see that the database is waiting for replication. So if you take a log backup, the problem will not be resolved. You need to fix or remove the replication. The same thing with the always on availability group. If you have any availability group and you have issue between the primary and secondary, you will see that your database log file is waiting for availability replica. So once we run this command and identify the cause of this issue, you can easily uh, mitigate that issue by troubleshooting the bottleneck or the cause of that issue, or the blocker. You can see what's blocking your transaction log file and prevent it from blocking the log file. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope this will be helpful, and stay tuned to the next video and stay safe. Thank you.